בעזרת השם. אוקיי, בשעה טובה. So, we are פסוק י' ג' פסוק י' ג' We are in chapter ג' פסוק י' ג' Mishlei, chapter 3, פסוק 13. The pasuk says, אשרי אדם מצא חוכמה, lucky, happy is the man that found wisdom, ואדם יפיק תבונה, and the man that acquired tevuna, that attained and tevuna is understanding. So, for the ones that were not in the second perek, we'll go back to the definition of tevuna versus the word bina. It comes from the word bina, but it's not bina. So the Gaon Mivilna explains the following. He says, why does the Shlomo HaMelech says, Ashadam matzah chokhmah? Lucky is the man that found chokhmah. You acquire chokhmah, right? You acquire it. What do you mean to find? Finding something is when you're not expecting it, and you find it. But chokhmah, normally you acquire it. So says the Gaon, no. The emet is that chokhmah hi metziah, is something that you find, is something that finds you. Sometimes you read things and you don't relate to it, and pak, right? A lesson comes, an information comes, and it triggers something. So says the Gaon, if you want chokhmah, you have to be open to find it and let it find you. Like it says, the chokhmah, where do you find it? Or from emptiness, me'ayin, from nothing you find it, right? So me'ayin can mean from where, or me'ayin can mean from nothing, from the ayin, right? Like we say, me'ayin yavo ezri. It can be from where, or me'ayin, from emptiness, from feeling empty, you find the chokhmah. Somebody that is full of chokhmah, or thinks is full of chokhmah, so there's no place for more chokhmah, right? So subconsciously, he pushes his back. But a person that feels empty of chokhmah is a person that's thirsty for it, so he will find it everywhere that he can, and the chokhmah will find him also. And he says, usually, what are the two sources where you find chokhmah? You find chokhmah merabo, from your Rav, and you find chokhmah from the books that you study. And he says, "V'lachen ktiv bo lashon metziah." This is why Shlomo HaMelech uses the word "find" to find, because essentially, when you come to learn Torah from your Rav or from a sefer, you really don't know what to expect. Yeah, you come to a shur of halacha of Shabbat, yeah, but you don't know what the Rav will deliver. You're not, right? So it's surprising. You're coming for something, but what will click with you, what will talk to you, what will enrich you, you don't know. For that reason, it's called a metziah. Now, and the same thing with a sefer. You open a book, you're learning. You know you're learning Rashi. You know you're learning Ibn Ezra. You know you're learning the Gaon. We're learning Mishlei, but we don't know what to expect. Says the Gaon, and he emphasizes the word metziah. You need to be in a dynamic, right, of looking, of being, of wanting mechila, the chokhmah, to find the chokhmah. If you don't want it, you will not find it. And the chokhmah, the type of chokhmah, or the purity of the chokhmah, or the depth of the chokhmah that you are thirsty for, depends on the source you connect to. Because essentially, the two sources of chokhmah that we're talking about, chokhmat Torah, right? And of chokhmat chaim, the Gaon refers to two sources: your master, your Rebbe, and the books. So if you buy interesting books, you're going to find good chokhmah. If you have a good Rebbe, you're going to find good. You want somebody that make the show, so you will have chokhmah. That's a show. It's very right. So essentially, you find what you are looking for, or what you are interested in, and exposing yourself to, based on who you are and what you're driven by. This is the definition of Metziat HaChokhmah. The Adam Yafik Tevuna, and the person and man attains understanding, Tevuna. He says, Mizeh Yavina Chokhmah al Buria. He says, when the Chokhmah comes, you attain it, you're consolidating the Chokhmah and understanding it better by acquiring it and making it your own. So it's not just an information that you've been exposed to, that you heard and you collected in your brain. It's much more than that. Is that once you've learned something, you know how to translate it, break it down, and turn it into your own. What do you learn from it? How does this apply to you? How do you formulate it? This is the tevuna, is the ability to take knowledge that is essentially universal, that you've received from a third party, and now downloading it within you in your own words, in your own way, so that now it becomes your chokhmah. And here is the makom to address the tevuna. Tevuna comes by its tevuna sits. Just you understand, tevuna is a trait, intellectual trait that sits between the chokhmah and between the bina. Chokhmah is acquisition of information, okay, download of information. That's chokhmah. Bina is the processing of the information, breaking it down, organizing it, categorizing it, compartmentalizing it. That's the bina. The da'at is how you translate that into your life and your actions, and how you implement that chokhmah and that bina in your behavior and in the situations you are encountering in life. Tevuna is born within the bina, because it's an analytical strength in the intellect that essentially is in the bina, but sits in the chokhmah, because it is what allows you to take the chokhmah and now translate it from a universal information that you've just absorbed into yours, before you start breaking it down and compartmentalizing it and learning new things from that you haven't heard, from the third party, and bringing it out on your own. That's the bina. So when Shlomo HaMelech talks about bina, he says you attain yafik, right? You take it and you consolidate it and you make it yours. And he says this is how you're able to awake, and he has a layer of hidush in what he said in the other prakim when it comes to the tevuna. He says the tevuna helps you develop ratzon shebachokma, ratzon hachokma. Now you desire the chokhmah, you will it. It's not, and it's a big hidush, because the ratzon, where does the ratzon sit? The will sits in the nefesh adam. It's a part. Of the instinctive force, right? The instinct wills something, wants something. So here, by consolidating the chokhmah with your tevuna, before we even get into the binah, we're still in the chokhmah, but by consolidating it within yourself, now that chokhmah turns into a willpower. It's not just a theoretical idea. It's not something that sits in your brain in a data room. It becomes a desire. It becomes a willpower. So how? What the Gaon is telling us, a beautiful hidush. If you want to desire and live what you learn, don't stop at the downloading of the information and say, oh, this is what Rashi says, or this is what Shlomo HaMelech says. No, this is what he says. Yeah. What do I understand? Like, how do I translate his words into my own words? And if you cannot do that, I mean, you didn't understand, right? If you cannot formulate and express an idea, that means you don't understand the idea.
Rav, is it that you didn't understand it, or you didn't desire to be able to understand it?
It could be both. It could be both. If you desire to understand it, you will understand it, right? You're right. You're right. If you desire, you will understand it. But here, the inyan is why you didn't understand. You're right. You're right, Chaim. It's that you don't desire, because if you really desire, but sometimes Hakadosh Baruch Hu does not let you understand certain things because you're not supposed to. There are certain things that stay. Teko. We have teko in the Gemara, right? We have kushiyot in the Gemara that some chachamim could not answer. Even though they have all the will of the world to try to understand. So the hidush, you hear Andy, the hidush that we didn't hear until now in the Gaon, in the power of the tevuna, is that it triggers ratzon hachokma.
But only things that are supposed to be able to understand.
Yes, but put that aside. Let's say you can understand anything.
Try to process everything. Do we have to try to understand
everything? If not, it stays. If not, it stays. It's theoretical. That's not the chokhmah we want. That's Google. That's ChatGPT. That's OpenAI. I'm promoting. I just bought some stocks. I'm promoting them. I'm joking. Right? That's the chokhmah. Once you use the tevuna into that chokhmah, that triggers, that awakes ratzon sheba chokhmah. Now suddenly, why? Because it becomes yours. If it becomes yours, you can implement it. You can do something with it. And we said that in the past. When the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Shimon, Amar Rabbi Meir, Amar Rabbi Akiva, this was just not just a saying that they said. No, they lived it. It was part of them. Their neshama revealed it. Right? They took a piece of information in the chokhmah and turned it into themselves, into their own neshama, to the point that Amar Rabbi Akiva, and only Rabbi Akiva says it. Nobody else can say the same thing. Nobody. When he says Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish will never say it. Not because he disagrees, because it's not part of Rish Lakish's essence. This is Ve'adam Yafik Tevuna. The Yotzi Me'a Chokhmah Tevuna, right? So from the Chokhmah, you bring out this Tevuna. Now, He addresses something that's al pi Kabbalah, but we know the Gaon always brings a layer, I mean, not always, but a lot, especially here in his Pirush on Mishlei, Dvarim Sheba Kabbalah. He says, he asks a question. He says, why did Shlomo HaMelech use twice the word Adam? The pasuk says, Ashrei Adam matzah chokhmah, ve'adam yafik tevuna. Says, Ashrei Adam matzah chokhmah u'mefik tevuna. Why twice the word Adam? So we need to know that when Akadosh Baruch Hu created man, the Zohar tells us there are 3 blueprints of men. We have men in the Bria, like the pasuk Motar Adam min ha'behema ayin, we say it every morning. Motar Adam min ha'behema ayin. That what is the difference between man and an animal if it's not Akadosh Baruch Hu's neshama that He gave us, right? There is Adam, so we have Adam of the Bria, we have Adam, which is Olam Asiya, right? The one that is compared to animal, and then we have Adam and Ne'ilam. Adam and Ne'ilam is the blueprint of Adam Arishon before the creation. So says the Gaon, Shlomo HaMelech here, he focuses on 2 blueprints of Adam. Adam before Adam, the Adam before the blueprint of Adam before Adam Arishon is too high for us. It is not something we can attain. It's not something we can relate to. And therefore, although, yes, there is such a blueprint, but it's not something we can emulate in our behavior and actually copy.
So why was it created?
Huh?
Why was it created?
There's reasons why Kadosh Baruch Hu created as a blueprint. Why is it from there will be shtalsheluyot, right? But he has, we cannot relate to it, but that doesn't mean that we don't need it. It's not. It's a level of perfection. It's like of Adam Arishon. Why did Kadosh Baruch Hu made Adam before the sin? Make him with sin. It's the same thing. Make him that he's going to sin from the beginning, and we know that.
Easy.
Yeah. So the two Adam that we can relate to is the Adam Bria, okay? And Bria, what is Bria? We say it repetitively. There's a difference between Bria and Yetzirah. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. After he says Vayitzera Hashem et Adam. Okay? Bria yesh me'ayin. The terminology of the word Bria is creation of something from nothing. Yetzirah yesh miyesh. Yetzirah, it's a realization, also a creation, but from something with a base. As we know, we have the 4 Olamot, Olam HaAtzilut, right, which is the highest world. And then we have Olam HaBriah, which is a world of creation. Olam HaYetzirah, the world of realization. Olam HaAsiyah, the world of action. So the blueprint of man sits in 3 worlds. It sits in Olam HaAtzilut, which is Adam HaNe'elam, the man that we don't relate to, okay, we cannot relate to. In the Olam HaBriah, which is the world of creation where the mahshavot are, right? And in the Olam HaAsiyah, in the world of actions. Olam HaYetzirah is the world of speech, which we have an impact on, but the speech sits between the action and the thought, right? It's a mix of the two. Understand? So we don't need a presence, we don't need a blueprint of man in the Olam HaYetzirah because it's a hybrid of the two. And the Olam HaAtzilut, because it's a distinctive world that we don't tap in. Just to put some flavor to what we're saying, the Zohar tells us that man impacts the world on three levels: action, speech, and thought. Action is in this world. Yeah? You take a glass of crystal, you throw it in the floor, it's going to break. Actions. The world of speech, in the Olam HaYetzirah, in the world of Yetzirah, the world of realization. How? Every word you say, you create an angel in that world. Okay, so it's a higher level. So, and that angel has for purpose in this creation to realize, to accomplish what it was created for, right? So lo alenu, somebody says something not nice or not good, or he's pessimist, whatever, he says words that are he creates an angel that has for mission just to make sure that whatever it was said, it gets realized. And then on top of that, we have the word of Bria, the word of creation, that is controlled by the mahshavot, by the thought, which is a higher level than the word of speech, and more powerful angels. So when you have a thought that is good, you create an angel that has for mission to make sure that in Olam Asiyah, down there, everything that good thing happened. If you have a thought that's negative, the same thing. This is why, if someone wants to impact the world, he creates legions and armies of good thoughts. Be'ezrat Hashem, those angels will end up shifting the direction for, even if it's the worst, into good, because that's the mission of the angels. Unless, as we all know, unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a different plan and puts veto on all the angels. That we cannot, there's always a veto somewhere. That's Ribono Shel Olam. Okay, so these are the three things. So we understand now why the Olam HaBri'ah, okay, the Olam HaBri'ah is Chokhmah, right? We said that the Adam, the blueprint of Adam in the world of Bri'ah, of creation, okay, is referring to the Chokhmah. Why? Because it's the Mahshava. It's very clear. Now, why would the Adam of the physical world relate to Tevuna? Because what is the purpose of Tevuna? Tevuna is to take something and consolidating it, in making it into you. So for what reason? Just so that it sits within you. So that you have now that chokhmah to implement it, right? To live with it. And where do you live with it? In Olam HaAsiyah, in the world of actions. So this is why the Tevuna is referred to Adam, to the man that is the Adam min ha-behema ayin, and the Adam referring to Chokhmah, okay, is the Adam of the Bri'ah. Any questions before we pass to the next pasuk?
Just right before you said Adam in Chokhmah is Adam in Bri'ah. What was the one? The Adam in Tevuna?
Adam in Tevuna is the world Asiyah. Like the pasuk that we say every morning, Umotar ha'adam min ha-behema ayin. In the pasukim that we say before in the korbanot.
You take the processed information and you apply it in the world of
actions. Yeah, Aram Asiyah.
That's individual for everyone.
Everyone
goes from one Adam to the other once they
Nachon. They tap into that. That's right.
Once they process that information.
Can we do one more pasuk? Okay. Kitov Sahara, pasuk Yudalet, 14. Kitov Sahara misehar kasef. Her trade is greater than the trade of silver. Umeharut tevuata. her yield is greater than gold. Tvuata is the outcome. It's like the the dividends that we spoke about in the last shiurim. Is the yield, the récolte. Okay, the yield. So Shlomo HaMelech explains. Ki Adam, the Gaon. Says when a man is busy, I guess today it's the same thing in different environment. He says a man in his parnasa is busy with two types of trades. How is he making? He's making money, or he moves commodities, items from one place to another, import export, and he takes a spread. So that's any sales store or whatever. Yeah, you take an item from point A and you sell it to point B, and you take your spread. That's one thing. Or he's manufacturing. That's the difference. He creates, yeah, things that if you build a building, you create. If you flip buildings, you buy to sell. You're the same sohar, right? There's two types of soharim.
So either he trades or he creates.
That's right.
Right. Can we do both?
And what is the purpose of both of them? To make money, right? Whether you create, whether you trade, you want to make money.
Where are you going with this?
Don't be in the development business.
He says, at the end, why are you doing all this? You're doing all this lit parnes, to eat, yeah, to feed your family, to live your life. But to the contrary of what Jaime is saying, the Gaon says, he says that the multiples of benefits in development, in creating, are much greater than in trading.
That's the gold and the silver is the other.
Because when you create something, you create a value that can have much bigger impact, right? And the multiples are much greater than, for example, you're in a business, you create a business, you develop this business, you build an EBITDA, right? And then there's more, you want to sell it, you multiples. Multiple 2, 7, 10, to each their own shiga. Yeah. But when you trade, you cannot trade by 10. It's not possible. You buy one, if the shuk says you sell it 1.5, you say 1.5, say 2. You cannot create multiples like in trading like you can in creating. Ken?
You can buy a contract and then oil futures and they go crazy. You didn't do anything. Same with when you buy.
No, nachon, but there's value now. But even we're talking about futures.
Whatever, any of this stuff. I'm saying you buy when interest rates are crazy and fast forward 3 years, you didn't do anything.
Nachon, you're right. But but the rule of thumb is the trade. No, the trade is always less. You always can have a unicorn.
Right.
How many flips do you double your money on your flip?
1 in 1,000.
You understand? Now, if you build a company, you create something. The nature of the business is that you're expecting to do much more, right? Than on a trade. Trade is limited by the shuk, right? You create a because something new, right? So the אחוזים, אחוז הרווח בגידול התבואה גדול יותר מאחוז הרווח שבמסחר. That's me I'm saying. The Gaon says, the return on your investment is greater when you create than when you trade. No, that's the Gaon.
What does that have to do with the pasuk?
One second. שוואי שוואי. לכן אמר, שכרה טוב מכסף שמרוויח סחורה. מלכוס הוא דבר היקר מאוד, לפי שהוא נצרך מאוד. התבואה נצרכת יותר מן הכסף. He says the malchut, when it comes to yielding something, when you yield something, it has a greater value than again. He's explaining. Than the actual trade, because the actual trade is out there. It's out there. And he's going to explain what he's saying that's in the business world, right? And he's going to go back to the comparison to the Torah. He says in this Shlomo he says what he's comparing money, kesef, because it's silver, to commodity, to wheat, right? What is more important? The wheat. Money is a trace, is a zuzin, it comes from him to him. One way or another, the money is coming, is circulated, right? But tevuah, if you have tevuah, everybody needs you, right? You're creating something. You're bringing to the world something that wasn't there yesterday. When you manufacture, when you're in agriculture, every year you bring to the world something that wasn't here yesterday. So you create value. So this is the goal, like Jaime said, yeah. This is the goal. The trade, like the money, it's like silver. It goes around, but you make it's nice, but that's not what you can yield a lot from in excess. So he says now. He says the tevuah, the creation, what you create, what you yield, is the chokhmah. No, mechila. Okay, mechila, backward. The chokhmah is the kesef.
Tvuna is your yield.
Tvuna is the yield, exactly. Chokhmah is the kesef. Why? Because chokhmah, the rabbi, the book says something, and he goes from point A and he goes to point B, and he trades, and then from point B, I like this chidush, let me tell it to point C. So it circulates. Right? It's nice. You gain from it, but that's not how you create. That's not what will enrich you. The tvuna is what you do with the chokhmah, is what you create with the chokhmah, right? It's consolidating it into your own essence. It becomes yours, and now you've created something new. It was based on an information that you've heard, but you worked it to understand it better, to master it. Now it became you. Now, when you're going to say it over, or you're going to apply it in your life, you're applying something that never existed before. So he says now the message of Shlomo Melech is very pashut. He says the kesef, you take it, okay, or any item that you trade, you take it, you trade, you made a lump of money. That's the end of it. Now that trade, that's chora, is not with you anymore, right? You bought cucumbers, you sold cucumbers, you made money, you traded the cucumbers for money. Now you can go buy more cucumbers, but those cucumbers are not with you anymore. No longer with right? Nachon? So he says the chokhmah stays with you forever. The chokhmah, once you hear something from your rav, you read something, it stays with you. Even if you trade it, even if you say it over, even if you repeat it bluntly. And the tevuna, even better. The tevuna, okay, so you made the wheat, right? Who made the wheat? You put the effort, the land, grew the wheat. Okay. Builders built you your building. Yes, you put all the effort. But it's not something you did yourself. You didn't create. So you commissioned architects, commissioned zoning guys, commissioned this one, commissioned that one. But you cannot say it's mine. I created it. It's my creation. The tevuna is you creating something that never existed before. When you take a piece of chokhmah and consolidate it with your neshama and now it's part of you, that hidush never existed before. And this is where the big responsibility of Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, to learn Torah, is addressed on each and every one of us. Yeah, the Sefer HaBerit, in his Akdama, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Atid Adam Yiten Din V'Cheshbon, every man, after 120 years, we go in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we think we judge what I did, what I didn't do, what is it. Suddenly, what happens? Says the Sefer HaBerit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes each and every one into a library. And he takes out all the books. 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, 10 books, 20, 50 books, where are all the books that needed? And he says, what's written here? Who's the author? Avraham Moyal. I never wrote this book. What do you mean you never wrote it? He says your name, eh? There's no sheker in Olam Haba. You're going to take, what is the book? Haim Chira. Haim, you wrote a book on Masechet Berachot. Me? Berachot? I don't know.
Wasn't me.
No, it wasn't me. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells you, come. Let's go back through the movie. You remember when Shimon told you a hidush in Masechet Brachot? Yeah, I remember. For sure I remember. He told me A, B, C, D, E. Very good. What did you do with it? I know it. A, B, C, D, E. But where is the hidush of Chaim? Where is the hidush of Abraham? Where are those hidushim? So, says the Sefer HaBerit, we are judged on all the hidushim we were supposed to bring to the world and we didn't bring it.
So is the chidush that the Talmud Torah connected with my neshama, and that is unique in and of itself, and that's the creation?
Yes.
Was that back to Chaim's point earlier that we are responsible for processing the chokhmah?
We are responsible. Exactly. Yes.
Attempting
Yes.
to process
Yes.
the chokhmah
Yes.
in creating the tmuna, which will
It's our obligation.
which will
Yid your hidush.
which will yield the chidush.
Exactly.
So you have to try. You can't just acquire. You have to actually toil with.
Exactly. If you don't toil to and trigger your tevuna, if you don't use your tevuna, you're no better than those AI. AI is even better. You're not better than Google.
Right. Yeah.
That's the Hidush of the Gaon. And for that reason, says Shlomo Melech, the Chokhmah and the Tevunah are so important. Yes, the Chokhmah is great, but we have to be aware and develop our Tevunah. So he says that's why the pasuk says Yikarahi mi peninim. There's nothing in this world that can compare to the value of the chokhmah, because what you can do with chokhmah, you cannot do with anything physical. You understand? You can't. Physical is whatever is it's static. Here the chokhmah with you take it's information. Then you use the tevunah. With that tevunah you translate it, you make it into yours. It becomes. But now you created the hidush, and the hidush is out in the world, and it goes on and on and on. Right? That's why the chokhmah is the chokhmah Torah is infinite, because the same words of the Gemara can yield millions of hidushim, to each their own. One more pasuk. We will go fast. I don't want to be. I don't want to exaggerate, but because it's connected. The next pasuk, Yekarahi mi peninim. It is valued, is important, is more important, more precious, right? Than peninim, than rubies and pearls. The pearls. V'chol chafatzecha lo yishvu ba. Kol chafatzecha, all your belongings, lo yishvu ba, lashon shivyon, cannot be equal to it. Okay, we're talking about the chokhmah and we're talking about the bina. So the Gaon says there's two reasons. Until now we spoke about two reasons why a person goes, a person works, right? He does business. Now he says there are two reasons why a person acquires something, buys something. So he says you can buy something because it's for your personal pleasure. It makes you feel good. Nice clothes, nice shoes, nice watch, nice car, that's that. Yeah. Or because you need it. Essential needs. Food you need to eat, right? You don't buy food because it's luxurious. Yeah, today you have but you buy food because you're hungry, because you need to eat. He says that's when when Shlomo Melech tells us that the Torah, that the Chokhmah Torah is so precious, is so important, is because you cannot, if you understand the kavod that those pearls and those jewels and those nice things give you, and that's a motivation. Once you realize and you know now what the chokhmah does to you, the kavod the chokhmah brings you, the pleasure the chokhmah and the tevunah gives you, the power it builds within you, the relevance that you have now. No pearls, nothing in the world can trade against the chokhmah. And you cannot compare and none of your belongings to it, because anything you own cannot give you life. Doesn't matter how many buildings, doesn't matter how many cars, doesn't matter how many clothes, how many shoes, how many steaks, it cannot bring you life. The one thing that can bring you life, says the God, is the Chokhmat Torah, the Torah Kedosha. Should never compare what's uncomparable. So Melech comes and tells us, bring your priorities back straight. Understand, if you really want value, then you should find where the real value is and not get confused. And if not, then or you lie to yourself, or you understand that this is, you're trading. Right? You give a good cow for a dumb donkey. And number one. And number two, you recognize, when you recognize that its value, how important it is, you understand that, how can I compare life to anything else? It's not possible. It's not even possible to compare. Says the Gaon, and that's the the beauty. He says, when do you know that you acquired that? What is your point of reference to know that you do something with your chokhmah, and you do something with your bina, and you have tevuna, when you have your priorities straight? The da'at is the ability to understand what's really valuable and what's primary and what not to compare to what. If you have your priorities straight and you're able to see and the clarity and implement it in your actions, you have da'at. That's called da'at Torah. So until now, we had the chokhmah, right? We had the bina, excellent. The comparables and implementation of clear priorities is the expression of the da'at.
In the tevuna?
I'm sorry?
In the tevuna?
Not in the tevuna, that's past tevuna.
Yes.
That's after the bina. In the da'at, you have the chokhmah, the tevuna, and the bina.
They're all part of that.
That it's not, they're not part. It's that da'at has all of it in it.
But how do you know you made the right decision? That it makes it sound like, okay, you acted on something, but how do you know that you made the right decision?
If your decision is aligned with the chokhmat Torah. That's the whole point. It's a very good point you're making. Where does it all start? It starts essentially, think about it, yeah? All your decisions start by, if you have the right priorities. All your decisions.
Right.
Okay? And how do you make priorities? If you can evaluate properly. So if you have a good evaluation process, you can make proper priorities. Once your priorities are straight, you make the right decisions. You understand? So you don't need to know every single outcome of every situation. All you need to know is, do I have the right priorities, and do I have the proper evaluation? That's the hidush. You have that. You have everything out of that is ripple effect. So to emphasize your point, Dan, if a person really wants to work on doing the right thing in his life and being bederech hamelech, like we say, on the path of on the way of the king, is to always be focusing and working hard on categorizing the importance and the value of situations and reasons, etc., and referring to clear, strong priorities. I think we'll stop here, Be'ezrat Hashem. So we did Pasuk Tedvav. We finished Pasuk Tedvav. Any questions? Andy, you good?
You have the title of the new book. How are your priorities? Let's talk
What was the
about
first part?
your priority.
I love your prayers.
Thank you, Rav.
Be'ava.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys. Nice to see you.